What is up, everyone? Welcome to this episode. I recently went over 50 Atari games in my collection, so I thought I would do the channel's first ever Atari 2600 collection video, and we are here today to celebrate the granddaddy of them all. You know it, you love it, as the Atari video computer system, also known as the 2600. Okay, so just before we get started, I'm actually going to talk about the 2600 a little bit, but if you just want to see the games, I will leave a timestamp right here, so you can just skip if you just want to see the games. So let's talk about the Atari 2600. This isn't a history lesson or anything. As you can see, Geeks with Cash on his channel, the GeekStorian, has already done a history of Atari. I'll leave a link to that video down below. But, you know, my personal experience, I have a very eclectic taste in gaming, and I think it was from when I was a child. At my grandparents, we had a shoebox full of 2600 and 7800 games. We had the 7800 Junior or Mini or whatever that was, where you could backwards compatible with 2600 games. At my parents' house, we had the Nintendo, Super Nintendo, and then at my aunt and uncle's, they had the Sega Master System. So it was like going over for a cousin's birthday party. Heck yeah, we're gonna play the Master System. Go over to Grandma and Grandpa's. Heck yeah, we're gonna play the Atari. And, you know, I think these classic gaming consoles, and for me, classic gaming is, you know, pre-Nintendo, pre-Sega Master System. They're just so magical, you know what I mean? Like, we probably wouldn't be here if it wasn't for those classic gaming consoles. And when you think of classic gaming consoles, typically people will remember the Atari 2600. This is my boxed version, my heavy sixer. It is complete in box with the cardboard bend arounds and all that stuff. It is very, very cool. This is my Vader 2600, my Vader edition with the silver logo, if that shows up. Yeah, this thing needs a little bit of a cleaning. It's been sitting in a box for a couple of years. But Atari 2600 is such an awesome and memorable system. Just because what it means to us as gamers, even if we weren't, you know, alive during or playing games during the Atari's heyday, it just, like I said, something magical about it. You pop in the cartridge, it makes that sound, that clunky sound. All right, we got our 2600 here. Let's play a game. Oh, that classic Atari clunk. Wait, what game is this? Pac-Man. CM Retro Forever and Clean! And they're just pick up and play high score games. The games weren't really, you weren't really able to finish them. They were sort of arcade ports, like weak sort of arcade ports. And, you know, some of them were individual licensed properties. But yeah, they were just like high score or beat your buddy type games. And yeah, very cool. This is an awesome system. It will be remembered for the rest of time. I'm sure this little bad boy is in the Video Game Hall of Fame. And if it's not, then it should be. I don't really keep up on that. And I have all these Atari games on my emulator, but those are the two consoles that I have, and I'm very lucky to have both of them. So if you've known me for any length of time, you've ever watched this channel before, I like to make lists. You know, my top 10 games I beat in the previous year list, games I need list, the games on my backlog. So I sat down, and what happened was last week I was able to get my hands on about 40 games for $1 a piece. We sold a handful of those games, made our money back. We had a stack of doubles over there, and I was able to add a lot of games to the collection to put us over the 50 game mark. But I got thinking, like, what Atari 2600 games did I have as a kid that I don't have in my Atari collection? And I could think of 7. So like E.T., Kaboom, California Games, Jungle Hunt, Solar Fox, Crossbow, and Spider-Man, that iconic Parker Brothers cartridge. So yeah, if you have some of those games and you want to trade for other Atari games, I'd probably overtrade because I got a lot of comments. But anyway, what are some of your memories with the Atari 2600? Leave a comment down below. I'm going to roll a commercial. I'm going to grab the games. I'll get set up, and I'll see you back here in about 30 seconds.
Only Atari makes the world's most popular home video games. The only Space Invaders. The only Asteroids. The only Pac-Man. The only Missile Command. And soon, the only Defender. And the only way you can play any of them is on a home video system made by Atari.
So here we go. We're gonna start off with those classic Parker Brother cartridges. You can always tell because they're like angled and they have this weird like V-cut almost label on them. But yeah, here we go. We got Frogger Classic. That is not coming up very well. Hold up. Hold that. How's that? That's a little better. Frogger Classic arcade game. We have Popeye. You know, I never played Popeye. I wasn't really a big Popeye fan when I was a kid. Cubert. I think Cubert just had a birthday or an anniversary or something. We have Amadar, which I got in that lot last week and I had to tape the label back on because it was coming off. But you know, it's one of those games where you drive around and you try and like complete boxes to shade in the area. So yeah, very cool game. I didn't really know a lot about it until last week, which is great because you're always learning, right? And hidden gem right here, strawberry shortcake. Got that from a friend who had a box of ColecoVision stuff, and that was in there. All right, try not to let this stack fall over. Mr. Todd Rogers, Mr. Activision, right? Cheater, pumpkin eater. Stampede. Classic Stampede, man. Yeah, crazy tough. I did keep this one from the stack from last week, River Raid. Basically, if it's a shooter, which is my favorite genre, I'm definitely going to keep those games. So I got River Raid and kept that one for sure. Plus, Mr. Matthews recommended that I keep that one. We've got some Epic games. We've got summer games and winter games. I've never played these. Pins are nice and clean, so I'm sure they never got played back in the late 70s, early 80s either. iMagic games, man. I don't really know about these, but I do like their cover arts. We got No Escape. Look at that. Like a dude on it's the Pegasus Kid. It's Chris Benoit. Cosmic Arc. And this one actually looks pretty cool. Dragonfire. Don't really know anything about Dragonfire, but it's a hell of a cover right there. Wizard of War. And then, last week when I did the episode, I was like, these games are like a little bit more valuable. Like when it comes to Atari, like 15 bucks, 10 bucks is valuable. And I was like, I'll just keep these. I can keep them. I don't need to sell them. Crash Dive, a very colorful shooter. And I love the color art. Like you see how it's like pink and yellow and it kind of goes into the blues. If you're looking on the screen right now, you can see it. It actually kind of looks like that. So it's it kind of like the game represents the cover art, or the cover art represents the game pretty well. We have Alien. If I told you this was based on the Alien movie, you probably wouldn't believe me. But yeah, apparently they got the license for Alien. Yeah, you can see it says trademark on the bottom, Alien trademark, so yep. Shark Attack, this is tons of fun, man. Shark Attack is such a cool game. It's like Pac-Man Light. And Lost Luggage, very cool. You can use the paddle controllers. Like Kaboom. Again, I covered those last week. So if you want to watch the episode where I picked up all of these awesome Atari games, I will leave that at the end of the video and you can just click on it, go right to it and see those awesome Atari pickups. So another staple on the Atari 2600, there are a ton of racing style games, whether it's an arcade racer, a top-down racer, but yeah, Indiana 500. Again, the cover art is absolutely exquisite and just something that you would not find anymore today. 1978 Atari Inc. I was born in 1978. How about that? I went on about this cover art last time. Video pinball, and as you're probably watching the video footage, not the best looking game, but again, you got to put things in the context of time, right? They didn't have the hardware to support all of the angles and the ball physics and everything else, but yeah, I just love that color art. It's very, very 70s, early 80s, with its neon. Yeah, great. Just absolutely great. Math Grand Prix. I don't really know anything about that one. Basically, all the racing games from last week I kept. Slot Racers, plural. Yeah, great cover art. Look at that. It's got like some F-Zero vibes, you know what I mean? And then I've got, I had Breakout. These covers are so boring. Are these the Sears Telegames game program cover arts? Like, that is bad, But Super Breakout. So we have Breakout and Super Breakout, which is cool. And then another shooter. Vanguard gets the distinction, the accolades, acknowledgement for being like the first scrolling shooter. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know the history of shooters. I just like to play them. But it is a very, very cool game. And its legacy warrants you having a copy of it in your collection because it is so good. Speaking of another shooter, when we talk about the capabilities of the 2600, you know, context of time, Solaris looks very, very beautiful at the time. And, you know, when you see these red labels on the cartridge, it's my understanding these are later release games, and that was sort of their last push for the 2600. So where we have, you know, Vanguard as being like the first of its kind, you know, Solaris on the 2600 is really like the last of a dying breed on the 2600. So there's a little bit of history there. Another arcade classic, Centipede. Yeah, for sure. I remember playing Centipede in the arcade. Moon Patrol. I would say Moon Patrol or Jungle Hunt would be my top two favorite Atari 2600 games. I played so much of them when I was a kid, and I loved it. I loved Moon Patrol for sure. Berserk, Atari staple right there. What a great game. Awesome cover art as well. And you can't really talk Atari without having their version of Daytona USA. Pole Position. Another incredible game. You know, you're only working with the joystick and one red button, and they really made it work. So very awesome. Pole Position staple. Have to have that one in the collection for sure. Speaking of games that I forgot that I had, I have Crawl on the 2600. Wow. Well, you learn something new every day. 1983. I have never played that game. I don't even know anything about that game. Night Driver. Now, it looks like it's a stock car type game, but you're probably looking at the video footage, and it's like you're just driving, weaving through the cones, essentially. Space War. This cartridge is really heavy. Yeah, good old-fashioned Space War. The first lady of classic gaming, Miss Pac-Man. Definitely better than the Pac-Man version of the 2600. Miss Pac-Man, always awesome. Raiders of the Lost Ark. And I never really learned how to play this game. I don't have the manual or any of the inserts that come with that game, but you gotta like hit the switches on the, I'm like pointing over there like there's something in there. But you gotta use the switches on the console to like pick up and drop items or something. It's very weird. But I just never really learned how to play it. Asteroids, another classic 70s, early 80s game. Like if you had an Atari 2600, you probably had Asteroids, a classic. Defender, again, another shooter, very unique style to Defender. I've always loved Defender because, you know, it's like a black background and then everything is like vector graphics, so it really just like pops out and just looks amazing. Canyon Bomber, that game looks serious. That looks like a serious game. Don't really know a lot about Canyon Bomber. I've never played it, but yeah, that looks great. You can kind of go over here, do one of those. Look at that. Huh. 1988 Atari. Yeah, that's the other thing that I didn't mention is that the 2600 had a really long run for a video game console, you know. Yar's Revenge. Sweet game. Doesn't love Yar's Revenge. Sword Quest. I picked this up for $5, but I think it was like 20% off. But this is definitely one of those games where you need the manual and the comic book that came with it, because you find numbers and you go to like pages and you find like little hidden things in the artwork. But hey, it's Halloween time. How about some Haunted House? Can't tell if my my cover art is faded or if it's supposed to look like that. But yeah, those are all of the loose carts. Let's take a look at some box games. So here we go. I've got a handful of box games. I bought these in a lot like years ago. Some lady brought out a tub of Intellivision Atari games, I think, and maybe ColecoVision. I don't remember. But I always just save the 2600 stuff, you know, again, because I didn't have it. So here we go. Star Raiders. Now this is in a big box because it comes with a special keypad, a controller. And it's so funny, like when you look at the like how they had to like get around copyrights. Like, so we've got an airplane right there, right? And then on the back, you can see this little guy right here kind of looks like a TIE fighter. So I'm not sure how they got away with that. Probably because this is looks so much like a plane. But yeah, Star Raiders in the big box. Very cool. I don't know if this is rare or anything, but I've only seen this like one other time at Maxine's Bargain Box. All of my games are complete because the person that had them before me kept them, but we've got Huck It, Chuck It, Football. There we go. I always love these boxes. They're kind of fragile and they're just old, you know what I mean? They're starting to break down, you can kind of tell, and especially when people leave them in like their garage or in the basement where they get kind of water damage. Another Activision game, Star Master. Look at that cover art. Oh my God. Absolutely incredible. In my pickup video, I was like, I've never even heard of this game. I had it complete. Surround. Don't know anything about Surround, but it sounds like one of those games like Tron Motorcycles or something. You gotta have Warlords on the 2600. Again, another classic game. You use the paddle controller with that, and you basically defend your corner and try and knock the brick or knock the ball into other people's corners and destroy their forts. Air, sea, battle. We got a lot going on right there. A lot to unpack on that cover art. But again, bright red, 27 video games. Like, instead of making like one good game or one game that had an ending to it, they did this thing where it was like you playing 30 different versions of that game, you know, on that one cartridge. It's like if you would have spent that effort, you know, making one game. Now, I noticed this, Berserk. I had Berserk Complete a box and Berserk Loose, so I just put the loose one in the doubles pile. So there it is, Berserk. You're driving around, you're walking around, and you're trying to kill the enemies while avoiding this little red face right there. But again, yeah, what is my comic book in there? Hold on. See if the comic book's in there.
A few moments later.
So yeah, no comic book, but it does have the manual. 12 video games. How many ways can you play Berserk, right? Another classic Atari game, maybe one of the most memorable games from the Atari era, Space Invaders. Maybe the most important game from that era. Yeah, Space Invaders took the world by storm. They're still making like Space Invader type games today. Now these are really cool. Street Racer, I love it. I love the color, cover art on that one, and I love that you could open these panels and there's the game inside. Now I do have the other version of Street Racer. I didn't count that as a different game or anything because I think it's essentially the same game. Gotta have combat. Combat is an Atari staple. My brother and I used to play that all the time. When we get bored playing with the tanks, we play at the airplanes. We do like the 3-on-1 thing. And then two classics, man. Two classics. Missile Command. Yeah, again, another arcade version that they are still sort of making today in various forms. You know, and they update them and put them on like, you know, Title Legends collections or Atari Anthology collections and Arcade's Greatest Hits. That's the kind of stuff you find, like update versions of those. And yeah, one of the coolest games on the 2600 in my opinion is Adventure, because it is an adventure. You explore around, you try and find the key, you know, do all these things, you open the door, you go in there, you move things around, and it is very, very cool. And it was sort of memorialized in the movie Ready Player One, as I'm not gonna spoil it, but it was an integral part of the story was adventure. So yeah, so that is gonna do it, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. My final thoughts here. You know, the Atari 2600 isn't the most powerful console of all time. It doesn't have the best game library of all time. It isn't one of the best consoles of all time when you compare it to Super Nintendos and PS2s. But I will say that the Atari VCS could possibly be the most important video game console of all time. I don't really, like I said, collect a ton for Atari, but when I do, I'm always happy to pick up those games and, you know, save a piece of history, because That's what this guy is. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. What are some of your favorite Atari 2600 games? Leave a comment down below. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share on social media. Don't forget to bang that notification bell so you can stay up to date on all of your CM retro gaming goodness. I might do a Sega Saturn collection next. But take care of yourselves, and we will see you on the next one.